Good morning, and it's the crypto day morning. Today's date, well, that's in that of Sunday. It's the 9th of December 2018. My name is Derek. All bets trades, and of the like within one's own risk and their own reward. Within Bitcoin, on a very short-term time frame via that of the 15-minute, we can see a situation in here in which price action managed to break down below what looks like is a key level of support. At least it was within this entire time frame, having it tested at 7 o'clock yesterday morning, then again around 9:45, then again in the 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock session, and then there's this failed breakdown, which quickly thereafter has had to move and broken this resistance and has successfully looked like supporting this previous level of resistance that it encountered during that same previous time frame I was talking about. And just now, within the last 3 periods, this one included, which it's us completing with 5 seconds to go, it had this big up move from a spot where it went lower than any point seen within this range of the short term. But it hit it though. And just out of curiosity, Coinbase, it actually had a little bit different. So that's just another example of why it's just a short, really quick trade for actually going down below that level of support. And this chart overall looks nicer as far as how the candles coincide with each other. Again, in comparison with this, which shows like this little gap move in here. And that gap move means, say, on going from this period to this, we see a close at 34.20, and then the next period it opens at 34.11. What that means was the next trade after $34.20.47 thereafter this is the open, which is at that point 34.11. So therefore, when exchanges with this being Coinbase here, when they don't have those, that means the bid-ask ratio is very much tighter, and it's a more volume related exchange. But again, amongst this move, it's got the sideways bull flag, as it's been named by so many people, looking pretty decent. When we take a look at this on a single hour time frame, it's trying to break through a very long tested, thus a very big level of resistance in here, as this is the area here, and even it extends a little bit. There's a two small barriers higher, one in around the 34.88, and then the biggest tested area in here. Looking at this on multiple exchanges again, Bitstamp, well, the line's gone, but it obviously hit that area, and even on Bitfinex. Interesting situation here, and I've just seen this now for the first time. This trades at a higher level for, this is 3,538. If we put on Coinbase again, 3,433. A large differential with what has happened. Something brewing amongst with this move that happened yesterday at 6 and 8 p.m. There was higher volume, so that was just more people getting out of that dollar they have, and thus into Bitcoin. That's what the easy translation is. And I'm just seeing this again for the first time for its move. So back to the Coinbase one, which I'm going to be using, I think, as my main Bitcoin exchange when looking at these markets, when not looking at the long-term time frame. Because if I put the monthly on here, I got this low in here, and that's good to go back to 2015, but I can go back a little bit further, of course, with Bitstamp. So that's the one advantage that would still have. But back to this again, single hour time frame. It's the talked about the bull flag here. Well, this is what you call the bear flag. It's just at the upper end of this resistance area. So everything in this area from basically around 32.90, which would be this low area, to this high that is near, which is around 34.60, 60 is just neutral. Breaking out above it, which is what this short term is showing to do, needs to get above this. So I would expect a fast move into this previous resistance on a break, but it would still keep it in this neutral setting, just the very upper end of this resistance range. And then getting out above this resistance and at the 35 and change mark, I'm going to be fully expecting a good chance that this thing can raise several hundred points higher, closer to that of 4,000. We'll see that within the longer term time frame. So that is how I'm looking at it. And if this move that looks so nice short term, where we see how well this has corrected within the 18, so many periods of such where after this great green period from well below the 18 and within its own period going well above the 18, but only a little bit well above, and because of such, it didn't take that big of a pullback for it to pretty much stay and support the highs for quite some time. And then a little small pullback did come to the lows, and now it's just been a little smallish but relatively okay size rally. And if it doesn't hold this, well, it's not the biggest of deals, but you'd at least expect it to come down and test some of these previous lows between the one in here around 3,300 low change and 3,200. Well, 3,200 and low to mid. So 3,200 to 3,250. How about that? Or 3,215 to 3,250. But overall, within that particular level of the 3,200, that is the current pierce above the 3,000. And if this little move here fails, you go a downtrend. It had its first correctionary test at 11 a.m. Eastern Time 2 days ago, and since then it's just been consistently consolidating within it, and that break again above on the shorter term, the 15-minute time frame, breaking out above that would show that we could probably move up to this little area. First I see 37, yet I did say 39, well, and that's because it could pierce a little bit higher amongst such. And the current 18 average of highs is in at 3,937. And it wouldn't surprise me if it had another test of it. The last time it tested such, it wasn't able to get quite that high. It spent several days within it. I could not make any accurate prediction where we stand for what's going to happen next. However, because of this nice little setup, seeing price action really starting to get above 3,500, it's tough because it could easily resist it. But seeing it get above 3,575, 3,580, then I would expect it should at least make a move above 37 at a good probability rate. And now let's quickly jump into some altcoins with ELF, the first one. I always think of ELF, the TV show from the 1980s. Well, I guess because you'd remove the A in here, that's ELF. Extraterrestrial, it's an acronym, extraterrestrial life form or something, I don't know. But that was the name of a character in the 80s. But anyway, this market in itself, after the down move, came up and had a move above the 18 average. Furthermore, on the 1st of December, which really states, when you see something like that, how important it is to hold the 18 average of lows, and it did so successfully, at least as of now, throughout yesterday's and the day before session, with today's session having a break from the lows, not only to the highs, but extending close to this level of previous resistance at around the 37 and change mark. Should it go up there? Well, let's shorten it out because all you can see is a nice green candle day. So we'll just keep on going one section to the left each time to see more information. So the 4-hour time frame, there's 3 hours and 36 minutes left. So there's only 24 minutes into this period. And the last one is when it happened. So it's just more of a recent move happening, and we'll do the 1 hour, and we can see that it's been a sustained one. For it started at 3 in the morning, 4 o'clock, it continued it a little bit with some correction within its period, and then a very good hour at 5 o'clock, which has so far been the top, the 6 o'clock hour. Nice, decent correction, and so far this one, it's just Well, it's halfway through, so I can't say it's barely into it. It's doing the same thing. And in fact, when you are 25% in the way in, or excuse 25 over 60, that would be like 40%. When you're 40% ish into a period, almost half, then you would be probably seeing it most of the time. You're not going to extend the highs or lows too much, so or the decent meat or chunk of the period is into play. Now, obviously, in a situation like this, when we shorten it out, we've got to see resistance near the 35.60, and any big moves come in that can change things at that time. And there's that 35.60 in here, what we see. Within this 15, it's had that short-term correction from that top. What a beautiful move. So we can look at the rally in three different segments. The first segment comes in at the 345 section where it just shot up fast. We're going to need to see more of this within the 5 or 1 given its great move. It extended further, so this tells us that this move had a big play ending at around 33.39. So it went straight up here and then it looked to a pull back over 100 basis points. So therefore, from the pullback to roughly around this period in here, it consolidated a little bit. It had a price correction, chopped around, but stayed below. For the most part, it stayed and held below the high at the 4 o'clock hour session because it didn't stay and hold above it here. It went well above it, came back. It took this 1, 2, 3 periods to find a move that can hold and stay above the very short-term resistance mark. So up move, good correctionary move, up move, correctionary move is where we're standing right now. And it remains in that correctionary move as long as it holds 34.37, as long as it stays below 35.96. But we know, especially if it can do it quick, keep a nice little bullish pattern, maybe find a higher low to the 34.50, meaning it can come down to another 38.40 or 40 points, no big deal. But if it does that and then goes and breaks above it, that's doing it fast, because this could even come back down, even make a lower low at like say 33.48 and find support nicely, say amongst the hour in here. Because one strategy for some people might be, or at least this is something that I consider one play, and it's not something I do too often, especially because it's not my strategy style. But if it comes down in here, are we going to find support? Okay, maybe for some strategy, maybe you do buy there, and maybe in some strategy I want to see it come down here, and then I want to see some further momentum breaking some whatever key levels. But it looks as if maybe it might be ready to go, so let's shorten out it again. We can see this first move, 1, 2, 3, 4 periods it took. So a straight up move, 3 complete hours, or not hours, 3 complete periods, because the period before the first big candle was most certainly an interesting one, because at this point it had made the statement. It was a downtrend, resisted it on the 1 o'clock-ish or so hour time frame, 1:30, and then it goes down and makes a decent leg lower. That's exactly what you expect, and this is what I'm really not showing this to show, hey, this is a coin I want to show, but just, it doesn't matter the code. It doesn't even have to be cryptos. It can be Forex and stocks. It doesn't matter. But when you have the technical analysis like this, people say it doesn't work. Well, you have the support test. This was never drawn in, oh, it's going to come here. But as it was rallying up here, you knew that line was a key level. You seen it get above the 18. It established resistance as it came back. Had a shot up here to break it, did not. And then this line drawn in, we can see had this move at 130, this move at 140. So it's now at that big support level, which we could ultimately see was showing weakness before it ultimately fell down towards that point. So you had the recognition that something was going to happen. To me, all this means is the probability odds for an event for what just happened to occur was substantially higher than it was 5 minutes ago before then. But it still was not a good favorite to happen. It's not like we can just look at this here and say, oh, right here, oh, look at this. We got like only seconds or a couple, maybe a minute. We got like 20 seconds. You got to go long. No. But if you see this, maybe you do it. It may be like, oh man, I'm just going to put a buy order here in 30.25. And then you're like, oh, and then pick your 4-letter word. And then, of course, if you were long, you can pick a different word, maybe not 4 letters. But that is, the general part of it. And we can see amongst the 5-minute how after this move of support, it was successful. Now, when we look at this by a minute-by-minute basis from this rally here, when you see it, you see, okay, I just seen it come from this high. I seen it pierce below the lows, and it did so within a 3-period span. Then for a 2-period span, I seen the price support that low, but stay below it. The next period, coming from the lows, making it to the highs. This period in here, making a move towards such continuation, what's a new uptrend, and then breaking above. It's now been sideways ever since. Some people, that just might be enough. I'm just going to, maybe one of two things. I'm not selling now, or I'm maybe going to buy a little bit. And then the big one, at least for me, I would think if I'm looking at something like this, I see something breaking out above. It's now up to, say, 35.78, nothing big, but decently, noticeably above, well above 36, maybe 36.11-ish, 36.15. Then this, of course, could have the potential to go, because as we've seen on the shorter term time frame, when this thing's ready to go, it's good, but obviously the risk is big. At any time, these things can just fall right back down pretty big, and that's usually the story overall with these altcoins. They're going to have superior up moves, and then the superior price corrections. And then just finishing off this within the 1 minute, just showing you that the volatility, if you got moves like this, it's okay, but nonetheless, when I talk about markets making a big correction, I'm just going to quickly show Theta. That will be it. It had a really big move, and it corrected really hard. And I drew these two lines, and before it even entered them at 17.5 and 14 2/3. And now I'm seeing the third day since it managed to make it to the lower end of holding and staying below that line. Technically, it's kind of still within that area, so I mean, it's still fine. It hasn't broken down from the 18 average of lows, but this is a spot where I can see it had a resistance test after having triple hit support at 1300 and low change. We'll say 13 even. Has since been coming back down. It has established 13 really big, so interesting situation. If it breaks down, maybe you have a decent leg lower towards the 1,000 or 11 or some sort of okay move. And then, and overall, when I talk about it, oh, it's a big failure if, of course, this thing breaks, doesn't hold, and it shows weakness, and you start to see it starting to fade lower. Not a surprise to have decent red candles again furthermore. And that's all. That's what I'm saying, is that it would probably bring that of a decent leg lower within the market. Would this be going down when Bitcoin's going down to 3,000? Well, that's just all the cryptos going down. So I'm not going to look at it and say, oh, the coin is garbage. Rather, I'm going to I'm going to have more buy orders get executed, and then I'll reevaluate the move and how I'm going to be selling and even buying thereafter that with my managing of trades. So thank you for tuning in to this morning's video. Decent chance there'll be at least one more throughout the day again today. Although it is a Sunday, markets don't move quite as decently or as volatile as they would throughout the week. But either way, I'll talk to you on my next video. Bye-bye.